Welcome back to Movie Monday, where we review movies or shows, in this case, in a different type of way. If you're like me, you're looking at the firearms used in a movie or a show, and you're like, oh wow, why do they choose that? That looks at a place that has no sights on it, so you're not going to hit anything. 22 isn't really designed for a 3,000-yard shot, but okay. Or maybe they haven't reloaded in about 5 minutes, and they've went through about maybe 17 mags already without reloading. So that being said, it's kind of fun. So I'm a big movie buff. I like a good series, right? So like a lot of you probably noticing these kind of details. And on today's Movie Monday, Movie Guns review, we're talking about The White Lotus. It's a season 3, just wrapped up about a couple of weeks ago on HBO, so HBO Max, right? Now, if you haven't seen the show before, there are going to be spoilers. And the reason being is because season 2 had a little bit of firearm play. Season 3 has a lot more firearm play. Now, we're not John Wick level. There's not a lot of reloads or tactical drills or anything like that. In fact, there's some ridiculous things we're going to talk about in the end of the show that I was sitting there like, what are you doing? Okay. And that being said, it was a fun ride. It's a murder mystery where typically something happens at the beginning of the show and you're like, wow, okay, so the beginning of this season, something crazy happens, someone dies typically, and then they go and rewind back a week and you relive the entire week up to find out what happened in that first episode. So by the end of the season, you find out what happened in the first episode. It's pretty fun, and the fact that they're kind of incorporating more firearms, especially being someplace like Thailand, which is season 3, was kind of unique too, and we'll talk about some of that in a little bit. So grab your favorite beverage. If you want, get yourself a blender. Don't bother cleaning it. Who cleans blenders anyways? Or you can get yourself a First Form Blue Raspberry. I got my link to down below for you guys if you want to check out some First Form stuff. Let's dive into this season. So season 3 came out in 2025, just recently, based in Thailand at a 4 seasons called The White Lotus, right? So the last couple of seasons have been all at a White Lotus 4 seasons type of hotel. This one seems to be more like a therapeutic, massage-oriented, Zen type of setting in Thailand. And with that, the cast includes some really great folks we've seen in other movies in the past. We're talking about Sarah Catherine Hook, Parker Posey, Jason Isaacs. You have Patrick Schwarzenegger. So Patrick, of course, is the son of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Walter Goggins, my boy Goggins. I enjoy watching a lot of the stuff he's in. He's been in some fantastic roles. Amy Lou Wood, she's been in a bunch of Netflix stuff. Leslie Bibb, Michelle Monaghan. Now, Michelle's been in a bunch of stuff as well. And of course, there's one other you probably recognize as well. John Grease. I bet you know John Grease.
Watch this.
Also, Lalisa Monable, who is a member of Blackpink, which I've heard of in the past, but apparently is super famous over in Asia, and she's from Thailand. There's a lot of viewers who really enjoyed seeing her as an actress in this movie, or in this show, really, even though she is a famous singer. Now let's dive into the firearms of this show, which, like I mentioned, the last couple of seasons hasn't been a lot of gunplay. Last season was the first time we really see any guns. The first season was a knife. What's the big deal? So with that being said, in this season 3, we get a lot more firearms and a lot more scenes where we're seeing some unique choices when it came to firearms, and that's because Thailand is very strict on firearms. In fact, I looked it up, and they are way more strict than even for the US, right? Than maybe even like Great Britain or Canada or anything like that. You can own some firearms. There's a very limited amount you can own. A lot of citizens can't own more than a couple of guns, or one handgun, one rifle, whatever it is, depending on what the licensing is that you go and apply for. Ammo looks like typically locked up or limited in what types of ammunition you can buy. So some of the guns you see that are being used, you see some security forces being used guns, some illegal firearms clearly are being used, and then some of the security on site at the resort actually has some firearms that might actually be legal there to utilize, and we'll talk about that. But they do have loopholes for security forces and bodyguards, it sounds like, from a law standpoint. That's probably how a lot of these guys get away with what they have, and that's because, let's talk about maybe the bodyguards. So there are 2 bodyguards for the owners of this resort. There's a famous Thailand actress, and then her husband, who is some business mogul, kind of some shady business there, who ends up being Goggins, his father, and of course Goggins ends up shooting his father in the end. I told you there'd be spoilers. So that being said, the bodyguards seem to be carrying just standard, maybe Glock 17s. But in the end, we do see they're a terrible shot with terrible tactics. And also, where were they? They were nowhere to be found when things actually went down. They were running from the snack bar or something. So Glock 17s, you know, Glock 17 is pretty standard stuff. So that seems to be what they're both carrying from a security standpoint for bodyguards. Now, another plot line in this show, a couple of episodes in, is there's a robbery that takes place in the jewelry store inside the resort. Some masked guy shows up with a backpack and what looks like a 1911 and probably 45 ACP, never fires it, never pulls the mag out, never does anything else with it besides pistol whip a guy in the head, who ends up being the main security guard, who is in love with this Mook character, who is the singer from Blackpink. And that being said, it looks just like a standard 1911, probably in 45 ACP. But they get away with it. They leave the resort after pistol whipping the poor guy in the head, right? And that leads to the head security guard, it seems, bringing his personal firearm, which is a Walther PPK-S, most likely chambered in 32 ACP from what we can see with the pictures of them kind of holding it and kind of seeing what goes on with it. They never take the mag out. They never show any ammo or anything like that. They do have the box, which I thought was really cool. It shows like Walther model PPK, but most likely it looks like a PPK-S, and that James Bond round is probably what it is. It could be a 380, but I'm leaning more towards a 32, especially with Thailand's laws. So if this guy who is the head security guard really does own this Walther, it's interesting that he locks it up with just the box and a loaded mag, and the gun is loaded as well. And I was like, oh, I know you lock it with the key, but then you give the key to a guy who isn't probably licensed to carry that firearm out. It's a little weird, I think, from a law standpoint for them probably. But that being said, it is a show, so it's fine. So the other security guard, of course, wants to get trained, so they go to the range, which is kind of cool to see. So I guess they have ranges over in Thailand. They go into range. He shoots really well, it looks like. Again, they never reload it, never do anything with ammo or anything like that. They have some safety protection on, eyes and ears and all that, which is good to see. Never really usually see that in shows and movies, but if you shoot enough, you know you really need that stuff, otherwise you get that ringing. So they shoot pretty good, seems to do a pretty good shot, has some good form, which was nice to see. I'm sure he actually got a little bit of training for this show, so that was good that they did that. I thought that was some interesting take on that Walther PPK. It would have been nice to see maybe a reload or something, just kind of see, because that PPK has a double action trigger, and that is a double action, single action. That double action is pretty stout, and also that gun itself is actually pretty snappy for what it is. I know I've shot it a couple times. I don't own one. I probably should get one. They seem to be popping up in a lot of movies and shows just as a classic type of firearm, especially being James Bond's gun. But they seem to be pretty snappy, and I know that beaver tail doesn't really help too much hanging on to it. Oh, and Jason Isaacs' character, which you probably know from The Patriot, which I remember seeing him first in that movie myself. He goes and steals the Walther PPK at some point throughout the show, which also, again, it was like, oh, I'm gonna talk to this girl Mook here and just like leave this loaded gun on the table, and then, or unload it. We don't really know at that point. Who knows if he loaded it when he got to the end of the final episode, but just leave it there on the table for anyone in the security office to just see and peer into, and then a guest walks by and takes it. Seems like a security breach for me. But Jason's character steals it, hides in the room for a bit. Eventually the security guard gets it back, which is good to see, all is well, and then he gets his training in and all that. So at least there's some kind of a closure there for that stolen firearm. Walton Goggins, his character confronts his dad, who we've talked about. He thinks it's just the killer of his father, actually. That's why he confronts him. And he brings along his buddy, Sam Rockwell, who does just a fantastic job in this show. He's always fun to watch as well, but he's a much more minor part in the show here, just a couple episodes. But that being said, he confronts him with what appears to be a Glock 26, just a little guy. But he confronts him with that Glock 26, kicks the old man over right in his chair, then eventually throws away the Glock 26 in a trash can in Bangkok. Like, okay. He was like, oh, yeah, Sam, like, oh, do you want to keep this? Nope. Okay, just chucks it in the trash can. So I guess that's one way to get rid of your Glock. Now, in the last episode, you get the most gunplay from the whole show, and Walton Goggins finds out that his dad's murderer, right, has a Beretta 92FS in stainless, is what it looks to be. I love my Beretta 92FS. I think it's a great handgun, and stainless just kind of adds that, kind of vibe to it, right, for the Beretta series. It's a very sexy looking gun, And that being said, Walton grabs it out of the holster that's underarm, like it's under, it looks like it was actually, I think it was left-handed too, because he was under the right arm. So he grabs it and then goes and shoots his dad, who then finds out it was actually his dad from the actress there. And then they have a big shootout with the bodyguards, who are like a mile away, having a snack and a drink or something, which why were they not near the owners? I don't get why they float around so much, but maybe there's a reason for it. They have a shootout. Interestingly enough, Goggins, of course, you never see any reloads or anything like that. And you do see the slides reciprocate on these guns, so at least I don't think there's CGI or anything like that, but it looks just like blanks, typical Hollywood stuff for firearms. He goes and takes out both the bodyguards without a scratch on him, and he takes them out with a couple rounds each. One is like a headshot, and I was like, oh, okay, so I guess the bodyguards have zero training. They just carry Glock 17s and drink and go to the snack bar. I don't know. But then, of course, Goggins' girlfriend gets killed in the crossfire there. And then the craziest scene, there are a lot of crazy scenes in this show, but the security guard there, the guy's name is Gaytok in the show here, who is the love interest going after Mook, right? Played by the Blackpink there singer. And with that, he goes and hears the gunshots going off, and he grabs the Walther PPKS out of that locked drawer. You don't really see him load or anything. He just kind of runs with it. And then he goes and runs up to the actress, who is, sitting on the ground there with Goggins' dad there, who died, and she's like, shoot that guy, he went that way, like, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him. And you're like, why are you listening to this lady saying, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him? Like, assess the situation first. So Goggins is carrying his deceased girlfriend, who is, he's all sad now, doesn't have a gun in his hand anymore, dropped his Beretta back there, and Goggins is walking down this bridge with this girl, Amy, in his arms, and he's just walking away, and the guy's like, Gaytok is like, freeze, like, stop, whatever. And then he goes and shoots him in the back and kills him. It's like, oh, wow, okay, so you're saying, let's just go shoot an unarmed man walking away, who you're not 100% sure that's the guy either. I mean, most likely you might kind of anticipate that, but I don't know, but he has a hell of a good shot. He actually kneels down, positions himself well, has a good form, and he hits him twice, it looks like, and he's down. That's the end of the show, and those are all the firearms used. You can kind of hear some sirens in the background, so I'm assuming Thailand police are on their way, and with that, I'm sure there have been investigations and things going on after that. But that's the end of season 3. There were a lot more gunplay in this show. If you haven't seen it, it's a lot of fun. I know we mentioned there's spoilers in here, so maybe you're already here and you've seen it, or you don't really care to watch it. But either way, it's fun. I just rewatched season 1, and it's just a fun little murder mystery thing to watch, at night and just kind of catch up on. Thanks so much for watching this week's Movie Monday Movie Guns review. I'll be back hopefully next Monday. I might do the Monday after. We'll see. There's a couple of good ideas I have in mind for movies to catch up on. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and kind of keep an eye on what's coming up for the next review. And we still do reviews on firearms and products and things like that. So stay tuned for the future gear and stuff coming on the channel. As always, train hard. Probably harder than those bodyguards trained. You never know what's coming. Take care of the ones you love. Those are the ones that matter. And we'll see you on the next Movie Monday.